Welcome to my series on the learning networks of the brain. In this series, I will discuss what neuroscience tells us about the learning brain from an educational perspective. I'm Ruth Bomar. When we look at the brain, it is divided into four regions: the frontal lobe, the frontal lobe right here, it's in blue, the parietal lobe, top center, the occipital lobe in pink in this picture, it's in the back, and the temporal lobe, it's in green in this picture, it's on the side. Now we have four lobes in each hemisphere, four in the left hemisphere and four in the right hemisphere. This outer layer of our brain is called the cortex. This is where we have our gray matter. Cortex is a Latin word that means outer layer, like the outer layer of a tree, the bark, or the outer layer of an orange, the peeling. And the most amazing characteristic or feature of the cortex is its connectivity. The cortex is home to 1 trillion neurons. That's a lot of neurons. And these trillion neurons can make up to 10 trillion connections. So the most amazing characteristic of the cortex is its connectivity. This connectivity allows the brain to communicate efficiently and along multiple pathways all at the same time. We're going to look at the three major networks involved in the learning process, and we're going to label these networks based on their job. I'm going to change the color of my highlighter. I'm going to use blue. The first network is the recognition networks, and it's plural because there are lots of networks. It's a multiplicity within this chunk of networks called the recognition networks. The job of the recognition networks is to make sense and meaning of the sensory input in the brain. And these recognition networks are located in the back half of the brain for the most part. They work together and very interconnected. The job of the recognition networks is to make sense of all the information that comes in through our senses. The next network, I'm going to change colors, let's do pink, is the strategic networks. Remember, it's plural. And the job of the strategic networks is to oversee mental and motor patterns. They help us plan, execute, and monitor actions and skills, commonly called the executive function skills. The location for the strategic networks is in the front part of the brain, right here. The next network, I'm going to use green, is called the affective networks. And the job of the affective networks is to evaluate the patterns and assign them emotional significance, emotional being the key word. They enable us to engage with learning and the world around us. The location for the affective networks is in the center of the brain in between the two hemispheres. The main player is the amygdala, right here, the amygdala. The amygdala is located at the tip of the hippocampus, which is a horseshoe shape around the thalamus. Right next to the thalamus is the hypothalamus, and down here is the pituitary gland. And around in a C shape around the hippocampus and the thalamus is the C shape is the corpus callosum, which is a set of fibers connecting the left and the right hemisphere. This is the front of the brain and the back of the brain. And I have this picture right here so you can see where the amygdala is in relationship to your head. Front and back, of course. So in quick review, the recognition networks are in the back of the brain, and their job is to make sense of the sensory input that enters our brain. Change to the pink. The strategic networks, their job is to plan, organize, and monitor actions, thoughts in the brain. And in green, the affective networks in the center of the brain in between the two hemispheres. The affective network's job is to evaluate patterns and assign emotional significance to these patterns. In the next video, we'll look at the networks one at a time and go over more in depth their role in learning. Take a look at my website, www.ruthbomar.com, or follow me on Facebook, Ruth Bomar, Academic Coach. See you soon.